Fleetwood Pike. I stared from the bottom of the valley at the mountain peak, and there were conjured all my progenitors, snow-capped and frozen in all their shaded glory. And yet they were absolved of all the blame I put on them, as I felt absolved from all the blame they put on me, while I made my own kingdom. I catch a bullfinch's grace, an azure sky, a windless nothing, and the mountain enfolds me, not to break bread or drink wine. The mountain enfolds me, not to place a feather on a hand, but the mountain enfolds to still me. I'm going to have to take a break, lads.
I'd just like to actually get back to Hull again and to ask you about a person who you must have known at that time, Sean O'Brien. I'm particularly interested that, of course, you knew him during the movement, but he wasn't yet a sort of huge, dominating poet as he is now. So I was wondering if you could actually tell us again your story about Sean O'Brien and Douglas Dunn going to Northern Ireland.
No, it was Sean O'Brien and Peter Didsbury,
Right.
and it was the time of the height of the Irish Troubles, and they were sitting in that hotel that kept getting bombed. The Europa, was it, or something? And Didsbury was sitting there trembling, wondering what they were doing there, and they were sitting in the bar with Paul Muldoon, and they'd done this poetry reading in Belfast. And God knows what Sean O'Brien had done, but when he got back to England, he got hate mail. And Didsbury said, "What on earth did you say?" But he really upset them. Yeah, so that's all I know about Sean O'Brien, because I didn't know him well. He was a drummer in a band at the time.
So I take it at that stage he was still slim and rather timid.
He was not. No, he wasn't. He was always an arrogant bastard. And he was playing the drums in one of those pubs on Beverley Road, and he said to me, "Get me a pint." And I thought, "Who's this?" Anyway, that's my story about Sean O'Brien. Anyway, I told that story to Ian Dewey, and I was rather pleased that I told it. Anyway, he's got where he is by trampling over people, I suppose. Anyway, go on.
Yes.
Have you got a view on Muldoon? Seeing you just mentioned him, have you got a view on Muldoon's poetry, especially the later
I don't like it.
Why?
I think it's over clever. It's over intellectualized. It's unlyrical. I can't get on with Paul Muldoon. No.
I mean, the over clever accusation is something people also sometimes say about Hill, Geoffrey Hill.
Yeah, but that's different because Geoffrey Hill was lyrical as well. I mean, he was controversial, wasn't he? And he was a poet's poet, but he wasn't over clever in the way that Paul Muldoon was. No, that's part of my tension. I mean, I'm not, casting aspersions. I felt like that about Douglas, really, Douglas Dunn, but that he earned his knowledge, Difference of temperament.
Your poetry, you like some guts, and maybe there's not enough guttiness.
It's this overemphasis on academia that I don't like. It's I mean, Ted Hughes himself hated universities, didn't he? I mean, I can understand why. Because he thought it drowned literature in a pile of words and footnotes,
Also, there's a sense in which academics are critics to come between the poet and the poet's audience.
Yeah.
So the critic says to the public, the only way you can understand this poet is through my interpretation.
That's right.
I think Hughes was suspicious, and I guess you are as well,
Yeah.
because they claim this sort of important position of being a mediator, which actually is not always necessary, is it?
I mean, before post-structuralism and deconstruction and all that stuff. I mean, the critics used to sort of elucidate poetry. You know, they used to make it more understandable. Whereas all it seemed to do now, it seems to me, I'm probably getting old, but is obfuscate it. You know what I mean? And that's why I dislike it.
I want to just ask you one question, which isn't really to do with poetry, but it's to do with the myth, and I basically want a yes or no answer. Is it true that you once sold one of your gold teeth in order to get enough money to keep on drinking? This is a story I've heard from several people, and a straight yes or no will do.
My gold crowns. Yes.
Your gold crowns.
Well, I tried to.
Oh, you try?
But the guy said, I rushed around these we buy gold shops. And he said, sorry, lad, he said, it's got no hallmark. So, having said that, yeah, I mean, as I say in that memoir, you know, that poverty dogged the neophytes, you know? And then, of course, it did. We were all fucking hard up.
And except, of course, for the other person I want to ask you about, except for Andrew Motion, of course, I'm sure he wasn't.
Oh, Andrew Motion, yes, right.
So,
now then, after that, I'll read the Des McHale poem because it's relevant. When Andrew Motion launched his wonderful biography, actually, of Philip Larkin, what's it called? A Writer's Life. 6 years before Disby and I read with him, I went down to Waterstones in Leeds because I wanted to get a signed copy. And I went down with Des McHale. Unfortunately, Des and I had been drinking all day, gin as it happened. And I put my suit on and got ready and was sitting quietly in the aisles. You know, in Waterstones, it's all very serried ranks of chairs. And I managed to lose Des, thank God. And then he came crawling down the aisle on all fours and started kicking me and saying, "Get the fuck, Tone!" And of course, you can't smoke in Waterstones, can you? And there was such a kerfuffle, I was trying to kick him off. And Andrew Motion stopped reading, peered over his glasses and said, "Is there a problem?" Anyway, I thought 6 years later, I thought he would have forgotten all about this. So when Desiree and I read with him, we had to go into the dressing room to be with him before we went on stage, and he came looming out the shadows. And I said, "Hello, Andrew." He said, "Yes, we have met before, but I've forgotten all about it." I mean, Des was a pain in the ass, but he was a bloody good poet, you know. And then he hung himself. So I'd like to read this for Des McHale in memoriam. He was an ex-miner. In fact, he was in the 1984 miners' strike, which politicised him, and then he got disillusioned. For Des McHale in memoriam. Having survived the Christian Brotherhood, he emerged from Kippax mine, blackened and defeated, trying to wash his sins in poetry, when his computer crashed and the mobile phone fell silent. The text messaging stopped and the TV was dumbed. When the landline stopped ringing and the post was lost. When the woman was gone and his friends died. when his poems went unread and his books were sold, when traffic gridlocked his path and he was stuck on that dark word, love. When he looked at the word on the page and found it wanting, emotion real but useless, his mind sharp but brittle. When, with a dropped heart, he wrote through the dark years when the magic had gone, and found the scintillating silence which took his breath away. And even the alienated and the angry smiled when they marvelled at the wonder and the hope and the loss of hope and the wonder. When his words fell softly into unrecorded air, even when reason and a desert were there, and he knew that only in darkness are our thoughts real, though from his bent shadow he peered at the moon's angle and at creation's constriction. And he knew he was being judged and knew his accusers. But when the politicians lied and his friend hung from a beam, only then did he stare in truth at the emptiness and say, I am done.